go first, or okay?
Need not
Does
me.
it matter? All right then.
Need not me. It is the prerogative of the whoever is conducting the debate.
In its simplest form, a border is a line between two countries. There are many implications for society, culture, and the physical world of borders. There's so much more than invisible lines engraved in the soil. Borders are geographical phenomena. They're organized and managed by political power. Borders are there for a reason. Firstly, open border immigration could lead to overpopulation. If open borders become a reality, the developed nations of the world will be the primary targets of immigration. Overpopulation would occur right away with this moment, as people would scramble to become the first families of the new economy. The results will be that those countries' welfare will likely to skyrocket, resulting in serious problems for them. Open borders may also lead to serious problems with sovereign debt as a result of excessive immigration and higher welfare spending. There is even a possibility that some countries will declare sovereign bankruptcy if their borders are not properly controlled. An additional drawback of open borders is the ease with which unwelcome goods can be smuggled into a country. Each year, large amounts of illegal drugs are shipped to many countries around the globe. Hence, if we want to reduce this issue, closing borders could make sense to make it harder for some smugglers to distribute these harmful substances. All the above reasons make open border a bad choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinika. Now I would invite Nitika to talk for the topic.
Okay. I firmly believe that borders around the world should be erased. To begin with, it helps people who immigrate meet their families easier. Whenever we want to go see family in India or family wants to come here, it's always a huge hassle getting a visa or renewing their visas. Without borders, anyone can meet anyone at any time, which can help speed up the process, which brings families closer together. I'm sorry. I often feel like my cousins and my are closer to my grandparents than I am. They share special jokes, memories, and experiences that I often feel left out on. Having borders erased will make it easier for me to meet them, which results in having a better relationship with them. Adding on, it helps people avoid wars. When wars happen, it's very hard for people to get out of the place. Without borders, they can easily move during war, which can save millions of lives. And people can keep out of poverty because usually what happens is even when people try to move, they have to leave everything behind, like their house, their clothes, and everything that they have except for a few extra belongings. So with the way that they can like easily move from place to place, they can take everything like money and valuable assets without having to worry about like being stopped at a border for to get to another country. Lastly, it helps with peace. When there is a disagreement between the people and the government, people can freely leave the place to another. In many countries, for example, North Korea, people are very limited with the things they can do. Being able to leave a place helps maintain freedom and give more options, which also leads to happiness. Without a doubt, we should erase borders as soon as possible and help people gain more freedom. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Rinika for the rebuttal.
Isn't the second speaker supposed to go for the rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay, now I would like to invite Nitika for the rebuttal.
Okay, so Renika mentioned overpopulation, and she also mentioned how it was easier for drugs and like bad chemicals and all those kinds of things to like get into countries. With I think there is an option where we can fix this, where like the government can kind of sort of oversee this happening, and we can also like prevent the selling of drugs a lot. That's what's something that we can do to fix it. And something about like smuggling drugs and stuff, they happen with the borders there already. So even without the borders being there, it's not going to be a huge difference from when there were borders. And yeah, that's all I really have for my rebuttal. Thank you.
Then what happened?
Then you're muted.
Just taking time to unmute. Okay, so now Renika, now please present your rebuttal.
While I do agree with what Nitika said, open borders reduce time taken to travel. I think it also increases the risk for the smuggling of drugs. Even though the country might have strict laws and strict measures taken to combat this issue, closed borders or with much tighter security at borders can also help reduce these things. Um, for what for we might not know is that borders are one of the most highly protected areas of any country. While the interiors are surely protected, the borders are much more protected because they are often the site where all the smugglings and the bad things could happen. Moving on the second point, immigration is a good thing. It can provide people of different countries and different communities, and they can also have greater opportunities to improve their lives. But however, this can also lead to overpopulation. Just as I mentioned before, this can burden the country that they're traveling to. Overpopulation, as I said before, is a serious issue that we must work upon. And if we have open borders, it becomes easier for people to come in and move out. And if a country which has much greater opportunities than the other country, which the people are trying to travel to, this can burden them, which is not good for a country's economic progress at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Renika. Now with this, we complete our first debate. Moving on to the second debate with the topic remaining the same. For will be Samir and against will be Wahin. Now I would invite Samir
Hold
to
on.
talk.
Adant, hold on, because I'm not sure if Samir has joined in. So look at the attendees and then make an announcement. So maybe
Samir
what
is
you
there.
can do is, oh, Samir is there. Yep. Sorry, Samir, what about your video, beta?
Yeah, I'm turning it on.
Okay. Yeah, carry on, Adant.
Yeah, now I would like to invite Samir to present to speak on for the topic.
Um,
Samir, I guess you are on mute. You can unmute and you can start speaking.
so borders around the world should be erased because over time, more and more borders have been created, and almost every country around the world has borders and security. So the reason borders should be erased around the world is because borders create lots of differences in today's world, and borders prevent people from interacting as they could without them, because with borders, anybody who wants to enter or leave the country has to go to like many security checks, and it's a big process just to get into the country and to leave the country as well. So for people entering the country, borders are good because dangerous people can't enter. But with borders, most people are not like don't pose any harm to the country, and those people, since their borders, many times those people can't enter the country, and they get declined due to like many small things that wouldn't even make a difference. And if borders were erased, if borders were erased, people like refugees and people going through like a hard time in other countries where wars were happening can enter the country and start a new life without having to worry about their past life in their previous country. With borders, many times these refugees can't enter the country, and the country remains the same with the same amount of people. With if borders are erased, the time people would need to travel between different countries would be reduced greatly, and they could travel around a lot more freely and a lot more easily as well. With with borders being erased, um, with borders being with borders being erased, people would be able to people of different cultures and religions would be able to live in different countries with many other people of other ethnicities, and this would cause the world to.
Thank you, Samir. Now I would like to call Wahin for talking on against talking against the topic.
Thank you, Adilan. Borders should not be erased because borders around the world really do help with, keeping the people who aren't supposed to be there. Like, what I mean by that is smugglers or people who are terrorists who want to come in. So we hear borders are in the news nowadays with Muslims, refugees flooding into the European Union, right? But that doesn't make an effect on if borders are there or not. And borders help us realize that we are different people, that we are a different race, we do have different ethnicities in our world, and we have to learn how to respect them. Now, if we look at the incident at 9/11, people are going against the Muslims, right? But borders help Muslims actually stay safe because Muslims were, being attacked, especially in America. They really didn't want to come to America. With open borders, Americans could have just left completely, but they had to go through a lot of stuff to actually go to where they live. A similar crisis occurred when in the United States, where President Obama had re-announced his former opposition to amnesty to executive order. This populist pushback against unchecked immigration from Mexico's Central and South America gave rise to presidential candidacy Donald Trump. Thank you.
Thank you, Wahin. Now, please, can you? Sorry, I would like to call Wahin for the rebuttal.
Thank you, Adyan. So, Samir, you said that people can't interact very well if they didn't cross the border. But as our technology rises and we have phones and everything, we're able to connect with the people we love the most. And then you said that people would be able to go through much quicker, would be able to cross the border quickly. Was that really true if many people are actually going through? If there's going to be huge lines at the borders, not many people can actually go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Wahin. Now we have Samir to present his rebuttal on for the topic.
There's other ways to prevent people, like dangerous people, from entering the country instead of using borders. You could like use security checks and other ways to check who's in the country and who's leaving it. And 9/11 didn't happen because it didn't have anything to do with borders, because people hijacked planes, and then they entered the country. And if borders were erased, everything would be a lot more open and less accidents and things like similar to that would happen. And an in-person interaction is very different from interactions happening through technology and phones and computers. And with the borders being erased, more in-person interaction would happen, and people wouldn't be using phones to communicate with people from people that came from different countries a lot more than it's happening right now with borders, um with there being borders.
Thank you, Samir. Now, should sleepovers be against the law? Now we have Megha and Arnav. We have Megha who will be debating for the topic and Arnav who will be going against the topic. So I would invite Arnav first to present his views on against the topic.
Today I will talk about reasons why sleepovers should be against the law. The first reason is that many things can happen when children are unsupervised in someone else's home. They can be harassed or hurt. A lot of dangerous things can happen in a sleepover without any parents. Kids can be bullied or sexually abused. In sleepovers, children have a lack of supervision. Children can also be foolish and do dangerous things. With all these dangerous things that could happen, you could just stick to a different activity, such as a day play date, with adult supervision, so nothing suspicious happens. People can also have peer pressure during sleepovers without parental supervision, and this is dangerous because then they can be forced into doing things they don't want to do. The definition of peer pressure is the influence that a peer group, observers, or individual exerts that encourages others to change their attitudes, values, or behaviors to conform to group norms. Kids can also say dangerous things that can affect other children in many ways or change their behavior. This is why I strongly agree sleepovers should be against the law. Thank you.
Adyan?
Yes, sir, it's taking too much time to unmute. Now we have Megha who will be talking for the topic.
I thought I was supposed to be going. Yeah,
Arnab, is not Arnab talking in favor of the topic?
So Arnav
yeah,
is against the topic.
but he was talking for the
He
topic.
was speaking for the topic. So Megha, you speak against the topic.
Okay. Although sleepovers aren't always the best idea, they're certainly not bad enough to be against the law. Lots of parents even say that sleepovers can have positive effects on children. Here are some examples. It can help build up independence. Experts believe while children are at sleepovers, they are forced to do things by themselves, such as brushing their teeth, asking for water, finding the bathroom, etc. Sleepovers can also allow children to learn new skills. For example, packing clothes, getting ready for bed by themselves, and overcoming separation anxiety. Children also get the chance to try out something new. Putting kids in a whole new environment lets them experience new things that their friends might do on a daily basis, such as prayers, food, or even a whole new way of living. Although their bedtime routine might be different and probably isn't going to be enforced, it's always a good idea for children to learn how to adapt to different schedules. Sleepovers get kids out of their comfort zones. Although this might seem a bit bizarre, it's actually completely true. In many cases, a sleepover might be the first time a child has ever spent the night away from home, which is a big step leading them to independence. A sleepover can make kids feel as if they are grown up and independent, even if their every move is being watched. If there are more than 2 people attending the sleepover, it can lead to children making more friends and being less socially awkward, therefore taking them out of their comfort zone. It's important for a kid to have fun. That's what being young is about. With the correct precautions needed and with parental supervision, sleepovers are completely fine and should not be banned. Thank you.
Thank you, Megha. Now, Megha would be speaking, doing her rebuttal against the topic.
Okay. Arnav, you said that they could lead to different negative things and they might say so-called dangerous things. Although this might happen, there's always parents watching. When I attended my first sleepover at my friend's house, my friend's parents were checking in on us every single hour and even took my friend's phone away to make sure we weren't on social media. Like I said, with the correct precautions needed, nothing bad is really going to happen. And the parents care just as much about us as much as they care about your friends. So they're going to make sure that nothing happens at all. Even if they do stumble upon something dangerous, parents are obviously going to make sure that there are different boundaries. Kids aren't always just don't always do bad things. There's a different boundaries set that the parents have set. So not much bad things are going to happen. Even if something bad does happen, parents are obviously going to be prepared for that. Thank you.
Now we have Arnav who will be doing his rebuttal.
When Megha said that sleepovers have positive effects on children, I agree, that is true, but there are more cons than pros. Even though children can have fun, they could be severely hurt, physically or mentally. A sleepover is dangerous because you could potentially lead to giving your kid to a felon or a criminal. Sometimes the parents might run off to do an errand and the other children will abuse a kid in some way. Even though many sleepovers are harmless, a few can still hurt many children by a huge margin. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnav and Megha. Now we will be going to the fourth debate of today, which will be borders around the world should be erased. Speaking for the topic will be Twisha, and against the topic will be Ritvik. First, I would like to invite Ritvik to talk against the topic.
Thank you, Adian. We should not erase world borders. Borders have been a thing since the beginning of human civilization, perhaps even before. They have been an integral part of our species and will continue to be. Our need to be more united as a world shouldn't be confused with the need to erase all borders. Because one thing we need to remember is that borders are not just places where people can go and people cannot go. They're also places on how far a country's laws and legislature will extend. Therefore, if we erase all borders rather than just opening them, that would mean that we're kind of erasing all of the countries and combining everything into one. And this is obviously going to be really bad, as I will show you. Different parts of the world, first of all, have vastly different beliefs and values. How will we get things done if everyone has their own idea on how things should go? Even in the US, there is a huge divide between the voting habits of rural populations and the voting habits of the city populations, and that also causes problems. NAFTA, for example, is beneficial for the whole country, but it's obviously really bad for the rural countries. And then there are also different laws on different parts of the world. In Europe, for example, most countries have laws against hate speech. If you fly a Nazi flag in Germany, they'll arrest you. Either in the US, people will look at you in a bad way, but the government is not going to do anything. Last year, a 12-year-old boy in England was arrested for sending racist messages to a famous soccer player. That's not going to happen here either. By the way, that 12-year-old boy was in England. What's going to happen if the whole world has to have the same law? Who are we going to listen to? And there are a bunch of other issues as well, because countries like India and China, or all of the countries, are just going to vote for leaders of their own nationality. An Indian voter in India is obviously not going to vote for a president in America. Speaking of presidents, actually, how are we going to have different systems of government? Are we just going to make it so that everything is different from each of the countries? Or are we going to have one thing that will alienate at least some people? In general, people are too different. Even in the US, we divide counties, we divide our country into states and let those states do things pretty differently. How can we integrate all countries together, which is what can happen if you erase all countries' borders? Overall, this would be a really bad idea and we really shouldn't do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritik. Now I would like to call Twisha to speak for the topic.
Thank you, Dion. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So whenever we go somewhere, or if our parents are coming, if our parents are coming or grandparents are coming, it's always such a big deal if their visa is expired or if they had to renew their visa, and that's really, really confusing. But the border patrols are mainly that we have to go through these obstacles. The visa, since renewing visa is really hard to renew, as we have to go from different places and do different stuff. I had to go to India during school last year, 7th grade. I had to go to India during school, and I missed school for 2 weeks just because of my just because of the renewal of the visa. Adding on, it basically helps with peace. If there's an disagreement with different people, for example, if the person is in India and then we're over here in America, then and they want to meet each other really badly, but the only thing that's coming between them is a border patrol. So that's the bad thing about border patrol. It keeps friendships close together. And also wars. Wars is a very big thing. Border causes a lot of wars because it's there's different types of people. There's different types of countries. There's America. There's India. I mean, America and India don't have much of a rival, but let's say Syria and I think Palestine, they're having a very, very big war right now because of some religion things. So if they were all just one place together, then they wouldn't have such a big problem. So wars can also be created because of the border. So for sure, I think border should be erased as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Twisha. Now, Twisha will be speaking on doing her rebuttal.
Thank you. Um, so first, it basically begins with chaos. There's a lot of people moving freely, and Ritvik, as you said, there's some immigrants who are coming from place to place. I mean, yeah, they're coming, but it's not really that easy to come over here, like especially in America. You can come from Canada, but India and other countries in Asia, it's pretty impossible because they have to get a flight, and if they get a flight, um, that means I guess they have money, and if they have money, that means they're not really robbers or thieves, etc. Um, and and as you said, they also become overpopulated. Yes, they do become overpopulated, but they also let everyone have some peace, and they can talk it out with each other, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Tusha. Now we have Ritvik who will be doing his rebuttal and against the topic.
Thank you, Adient. Trisha, one of the main thing about why we should erase borders was that they can cause inconveniences. And I agree with you on the inconveniences part. When I was in fourth grade, we were supposed to go to India on June 7th, but because of a few issues, we almost had to go on July 4th. I remember I cried so much that day. I felt so sad, and that's not something I want to have to go through again because that would have cut my trip in half. And we managed to get to a better flight, but still, I can see why borders can cause problems. But none of the points that you listed ultimately trumps the safety issue. I mean, this is not just what I said too. Many other speakers who spoke on the same topic talked about how bad things can spread through borders, how borders are a place in which security is the strongest. And as I said before, it's not just chaos on people going from different places. It's also chaos on how are we going to all be united. Even though we're all humans, everyone has different values and different beliefs. People want things to be done differently. If we try to just erase our borders, we are not really acknowledging those differences. And as I said before, borders are not just places where people can go and people cannot go. It's also a place of how far our countries or states' legislature will extend. If you erase those borders, then that means that the countries and states' legislatures, it's not really meaningful anymore. We would have to come up with a bigger thing. And ultimately, it'll cause so much chaos and so many deaths and so many problems that we really shouldn't do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritvik. Sir, we don't have another speaker for Ananya, another debater.
No, no problem. Even though there's no debater against Ananya, that doesn't stop us from giving a chance to Ananya to speak her points out. I think Ananya would like to speak on the topic that sleepovers should not be illegalized, or so sleepovers should be allowed. Ananya, please, the stage is yours.
So I believe that sleepovers shouldn't be banned because some if people are the only child in their house, and they would have to sleep alone if they're a grown up, and if you have a sleepover with them, then they don't really feel that lonely. The second thing is that you have many other fun games to do during a sleepover. You don't just have to just sleep regularly. You can like chat. You can sleep at like 3 a.m. or something. Another thing is if we're supposed to sleep alone, and like we have to sleep alone. If we bring a friend over, like then we won't be like scared to sleep alone because we have someone sleeping with us. And also another reason is that if you have family members really close, or really close friends, and they live like 5 hours away, you can have a sleepover because they can't go driving another 5 hours. That can take their sleep away. Thank you.
Good. Well done,
Thank you.
Ananya. Spoke well. Yep. Good.
Thank you, Ananya. Now, this brings us to the end of the last and the final round of debate month's fourth round debate.